In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create what we call a clickable link here, but only on this part. So if I click here, you can see here, it opens up immediately another website. If I click here, it will open up as well another website. However, if I click on the other space, it doesn't work. And you can see here, the cursor converts into a clickable item, or at least it shows you it's clickable. So as you can see here again, and then here again, if I click on this, there we are. So let's start to look how to do this. So let's start to look how to make clickable data labels with the data labels plugin in Chart.js. So the first thing what we need is we need to get the default code, which you can find in chartjs-3.com, or this specific link here with getting started. You can find this link as well in the description box. Once you're on the site, scroll down and just copy this entire chunk of code here. Once you copy this, just paste that all in here. And by the way, if you want to understand what this code is, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So once I did that, I'm going to just grab this title here and replace this. Oh, there we are. Save that and refresh. There we are. So what I want to do now, because the question was specifically for a horizontal bar, so I'm going to convert this into a horizontal bar. To do that, in the bar here in the options, I'm going to say enter. Now we say index axis equals y, comma, save that, and what happens now is that the axis has been swapped. So basically the x-axis has now moved here to the y, and the y numbers move here down to the x-axis. So now what I want to do is I want to have here these numbers in here, which is our data labels. They are specifically within the center of the bar. So I'm going to click on, not on that one, sorry. I'm going to go here to the Chart.js plugin-datalabels. And basically what I want to get here is the Chart.js plugin-datalabels JavaScript library. So this specific file I'm going to copy, and then what I will do here is just here below after the Chart.js library, I'm going to paste this chunk of code here, which is the script tag with that specific plugin. So if I refresh here, nothing happens yet because we didn't activate it yet. So what we're going to do here is we're going to activate the plugin. So you can see here the options. After the options, comma, we're going to say plugins, and then we're going to say here chart data labels. Save that, refresh. So now we have it activated, and what I want to do now is I want to make sure that this area is clickable, or sorry, this one here. So what I want to do, of course, to make sure that it is communicated that it's clickable, we want to have a cursor adjustment the moment we hover over here, only on this specific part. So this would mean that we want to make here the cursor, that we hover over this specific area, that we have the cursor convert into a pointer instead of the mouse cursor. And then when we move away from it, that it will be back to a default cursor what we have. Next, of course, we need to make sure that this is clickable. So we have two functions we have to build in here. So let's do them both. So the first thing what I want to do here is we're going to highlight the area, but I will not draw anything. We'll just imaginary rectangle or square in this area. So that's what we're going to do here. To do this, I will not work with a plugin because that will create a conflict, because the plugin will have a loop effect because the tooltip. So basically this tooltip here creates a frame per second effect of 0.5 seconds. That would mean on average 1 second has 60 frames, so there's 30 frames being done. Basically what's happening is it's being redrawn 30 times. So I want to avoid that, because if not we will have a redrawing of the item multiple times, which would delay the entire item. So what we're going to do here is the following. We're going to build it just here below. Once everything is drawn, we're going to say a function. And what I will do here, first of all, let's create the hover cursor. So I'm going to say this will be our hover cursor, and this is our function. And then what I want to say here, just for now, just say here hover. And in reality, we're not really working with a hover, but we're really working with a mouse over, or the mouse move to be specific. Why mouse move? Because when we are on this item here on the canvas, we're right now hovering on the canvas. No matter where we move our mouse to, we're hovering consistently until we're out of the canvas. Then we're not hovering, because what I want to do is, more specifically, when we hover or with our mouse move, when our cursor is on the x and y coordinates here. So this is very important to understand, because that's the core difference here. And later on you will see that. Alright, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to grab here and I'll make sure that the canvas recognizes the mouse movement. So I won't say here my chart, which is this canvas here, but then here specifically I'm going to type in here canvas, because I want to pinpoint the canvas ID and not only the my chart constant, because it will has a configuration with all these items and will draw everything. So I don't want that. I want specifically the ID name, basically this here. That's what I'm really trying to target. So then what I'm going to say here is add event listener, and then what we're going to do here is of course the mouse move. So we have mouse move, then a comma, and this will be registered as the event of E. So just basically event, but I'm just using a shortcut of E. So then what I want to do here is, if we have this mouse move, trigger what exactly? We're going to trigger the hover cursor function. And of course in here I want to have two parameters that will become very important later on. One is my chart, which is basically the targeting of this constant, or this constant object, because it's an object in itself, and comma the E, which is of course our mouse move event. So if I do this now and save this, if I refresh here now and let's reload and open up the developer tab, if I hover over here, you can see here it will consistently trigger something here. Although it gives you sometimes warning, but that's alright. Doesn't matter. And you can see here it will trigger nicely. So this it recognizes this. This is the first step. So now what I want to do is I want to get here, let's say here will be the chart, comma, click. So this chart is basically the reference of this. So if I'm going to copy this into here, chart, you will see this will just be the object of the canvas itself with all the information here. And this is, if you've seen many of my other videos with the plugins, this is very familiar material. So then what I want to do here is the following. I want to grab here, or let's do an object destructuring, because now we're allowed to do that because we have the nice reference of the object. So what I want to do here is the following. I'm going to say a constant, and this constant will be called chart, but here we have the object destructuring, so we're going to grab the individual objects here that we need. So I'm going to say here what I need is the canvas. Canvas is important. Next, what I want to do here is the CTX, and then we have here a few options that we might consider. One is the data, and finally we have here the scales, specifically the X and Y scale values. If you will use them all, I'm not sure yet, but these are important for us, so we can see, and we can always remove the ones we don't use afterwards. So if we do now this, nothing really happens here, but now we can start to draw something in our item. However, what I want to do next, and this is very crucial as well, because what are we going to do? Just think about it. We need to get these coordinates here, but the first thing is what we need to know is, if we hover or mouse move with our cursor, what is the X and Y position of the item? So we need to grab the exact coordinates of the pointer that the mouse is pointing on. So that's what we're going to do now. So what I'm going to do here is simply, I'm going to say here, let's do this here above. We're going to say here let, and this let will be our rectangle, equal, then we can say here the canvas, that's what we have here above, and then what I'm going to say here, dot get bounding, make sure you type bounding correctly, client rectangle. So basically what it really does here is to calculate, because what we want to do is we want to calculate canvas position, but by default it will always get the X and Y coordinates of the screen of the inner window, basically here, this part here. If I would close this, then we have this full, and there's also an outer window that would include these coordinates as well. So what is very important is I want to calculate the coordinates of this here, and then compare it with the coordinates within this canvas here and deduct the difference, so we get the exact coordinates within our canvas. Sounds very complicated, don't worry about that. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, and probably this should be a separate video as well, as so I can explain in depth. But anyway, what we're going to do here, I'm going to say a constant, and let's say here coordinate X. This will be our X coordinate, and here what I need to do here is get the click. So basically when we trigger our event, which is being recorded, the E here is eventually our click, and I realized I don't know why I type here click. Sorry about that. This should be a mouse move. So when we have our mouse move, that would be of course the most logical one. So sorry if you had a question why this here. That's why. I was not paying attention. So when we have the mouse move, then we have the mouse move, and then we're going to say client X. And this, of course, if you're wondering how do we get this, let me show you. That would be probably a very useful thing to see. Mouse move, save that. If I move here now, you can see we get all of these mouse move events. You get here the offset X and Y, you have the layers, the page X and Y, and you have here the client. And what I need to do here is basically this here, later on with the get bounding item, we have to deduct that, because you can see here this is client, wherever we hover over 600 plus, but that will be including this space here, including the when you call it the pink background color. So I need to deduct this part here, so we get the exact canvas, which starts, as you can see here, exactly. So there's like maybe 50-60 pixels difference between there. So what I'm going to do now is with that, so now you understand that one, I'm going to say here the rec, which is basically this here, and then I'm going to say here dot left. Calculating this, eventually we're going to do exactly the same for the coordinate y equals, and I'm going to just copy all of this. But what I want to do here, just to make sure, this will be client y, and of course the y is a vertical level, so we're going to say here top, calculating the top difference here. Let me just remove that. The top difference is from here to somewhere here, wherever the canvas is starting. So now we have all of this, and I'm going to remove this console log here to clean it up, and then here as well. So we have this, and now with this we have basically the coordinates of our item, and you can console log these as well. Let's say core X, and then we can do another one here, core Y. Save, refresh, open the developer tab, and refresh again. You see here, as we move, we get the coordinates, and if I go here somewhere in the corner, we should go somewhere into the as close as possible on the 0 in the X and Y. And you might notice that there's maybe sometimes a -1. So this could be happening because of the how it's being calculated, but it's basically a margin error of 1 pixel. I will accept that tiny difference. So now we have this. What I want to do now is start to draw specifically, or more importantly, we need to calculate here now this area here. So basically we need to start somewhere here, and then when we are within this specific area, at that moment I want to have a nice cursor or adjustment of cursor. So what I'm going to do here is, and probably I guess maybe we have a visual, it will be very useful. I'm going to make here a quick visual. Let's say here I'm going to say a CTX. I'm going to say a CTX rec, I guess, or stroke style. So I'm going to make basically a rectangle that I want to highlight the border area that we need, but I want to remove later on the border area because I want to make it invisible. So, but I to make it to give it a color so you can easily imagine it. So I'm going to say here, this here, let's say this is black. Next, I'm going to say a CTX line width to give it a border thickness of 1 pixel. That should be fine. And I'm going to say a CTX dot rectangle, and this rectangle will have a X and Y, and then I'm just going to put in this here, 10 by 10 by 10, meaning 10 pixels to the left for this, 10 pixels to the right, oh sorry, 10 pixels down, and then here I'm saying 10 pixels to the left, but that's incorrect. This should be 10 pixels to the right, because it starts at the left side, pushes to the right. This one is going down, and then here width of 10 pixels and height of 10 pixels. Once I did that, once I say CTX dot stroke to draw the line, save that, refresh, and all right. So you can see here this doesn't show. So let's see what's going on here. Of course, sorry. So the reason why it doesn't show, of course, is I need to hover. There you are. So you can see that what I want to do is I want to highlight it just in here. So if I go back here, and you can see here now, if you hover and we have this tooltip, it counteracts, but that's all right. So what I want to do, this needs to cover here nicely. So to do that, I need to get the right coordinates for this. So how do we get these? Well, the coordinates is basically this here divided by 2. Number 18 divided by 2, you can see if we go down here, it should be 9 here on the x-axis. And the y-axis, we have here, this is index 1, 2, 3, oh sorry, it's index 0, 1, 2, 3, until 6 here. So that's why we have this scale here in the x and y, because this will help us. So what I'm going to do now is we start to work on that. And first of all, what I want to do here is to look. What we need here is basically, I would say, maybe here the width. This one here, we can I'll just give it 20 pixels for now. And if I hover, oh, sorry, that shouldn't be 20 pixels, as you can see here. 10, the width needs to be 20 pixels, save that. And if I hover, there we are. So it shows nicely, but then here the height, by default, Chart.js have a font of 12 pixels. So what we can do with the height, which is this one here, if you want to do it, we can do maybe instead of 12, we can make this 20. So that would be alright. So we have some space up and down. Alright, so then we get this. Alright. So then what I want to do next is basically it's time to get the exact coordinates. For this, I'm going to show you one of the commands that Chart.js has built in. So we're going to say here x dot, and the x comes from the scale x. And then we're going to say here get pixel for value. And what we're really doing is we're going to try to get the value, which is now around number 18. This number 18, then we're going to get the pixels. But however, remember number 18, this bar has a width of this here. And I want to make sure that it is here in the center. So I'm going to say instead of number 18, number 9. So if we do this, refresh. And then there we are. You can see here now we are starting to get very nicely here. We are here, but there's just only one thing here that's missing is, of course, we need to push it a little bit to the left side. Because it starts exactly in the center, but here the text here is aligned center. Well, this one here by default is aligned left. But we cannot adjust that. So that's very important. We need to calculate how many pixels this in width is. And so what I'm going to do here is the following. Let's see. We need to probably here deduct this. And here we need to eventually calculate the number divided by 2. So this will be very important. So what I'm going to do here, this number is basically the number here divided by 2. So what I'm going to do is, that's why we have the data here, remember, because we have here the data object. So it refers to this, so we can quickly go into here. So let's do that first. So I'm going to say here, let's say a constant, and I'm going to give this x2. And basically x divided by 2. That's really the correct term for it, because we're going to say data dot. And I'm going to say data sets. And I'm going to grab here the only data set that we have is data set index 0 dot data, and then here for now I'm going to use 0. This is very important. Later on we can look through this, so don't worry about that. We're going to work on that. And then what I want to do here is divide by 2, and that's it. Basically this to avoid any formulas within here, although we will add some formulas, but the lesser the better. So now we have this, and then you can see here as I hover over it, nothing really changes. It's in the original position still, but it is now nicely matched. So now what I want to do is, let's get this one here. So we're going to grab this. We're going to grab completely this, and then here, the starting point on the Y level will be on the Y, and then just say here, 0. We'll do this. Y, there we are. Alright, so now we get this, so we need to push a little bit more up because this is about 12 pixels. We give this a 20 pixels here, so what we could say here, maybe, let's say divide -10 to push it a bit more up. There we are, and that looks quite nice. And then what I want to do here is, well, what we can do here, the amount of text here. So what we can do here is, what we can do, let's grab that. I'm going to calculate the width of that one. So we have this, and this is basically as well our text. Remember, if I do here console log, this is just a number as well. This is number 18 as we divide by 2. And if I do this, 114, 114. What happened here? Just like that. I'll just keep it for now. This is number 18. You can see here. So what we can do here is to measure the full width of that. So we can nicely push this in the center. Is to do the following. I'm going to copy this. We say here text width equals, and this should be a constant, is ctx.measure text. Do this one here, and then we say here dot width. Very important. This is a specific command here. This basically converts now the item into pixels. How many pixels this is, how much or how many pixels the text of 18 needs in width. However, I don't want only that. I want to say plus 10 pixels because you have some margin left and right. So if I do this and then I copy this one and I'm going to define here now. This is the width. Put it in there. Put it in there, and then there we are. There we are. You can see the width is slightly bigger. But now let's push it to the item here, and then what I'm going to say here is, let's see if this works nicely. Text width minus text width divided by 2. Save that. And it's working. Here we are. That's alright. I will accept that for now. So it's slightly off, but that's alright. It's quite acceptable. For now, this is fine, and you can fine tune this a little bit more. You can play around with it how you want to. So now we have this. Alright, so what I need to do here now, if this is the case, we have all of this here. And then what I need to do here is not only even, because we spent a lot of time in drawing it, but I want to do here specifically an if statement. And this if statement will say if our coordinates that we have here down here right now, if this is correct, in that case, what I want to do is show cursor. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to say an if statement. And this if statement say if coordinate x is larger or equal to this position here, copy that. And if coordinate x is smaller or equal to, basically we have the text width here, but remember this is in pixels. So what we need to do is we need to calculate this part plus text width. Very important here, so do not get confused about this. I'm going to copy this. Let me say plus, oh well, you know what I'll do? I will change this. I'll make this easier. I'm going to just convert them nicely. We're going to say here constant left equals, and that's it. That will make it far more easier for you to digest and to understand text. So I say here, this is the left, constant right will be, I'm going to copy all of this, because this is just basically pixel amount, plus the text width here. Remember the rectangle. And then we have here the constant top will be equal to the y minus 10. And then we say constant bottom will be equal to y minus 10 plus whatever the value was here, that's 20. So then it will be very easy for you to follow along. We say here coordinate x should be bigger than the left side, which is basically here where the line was. And then, of course, core x should be smaller or equal to the right. And then we do as well, coordinate y should be bigger or equal to top, which is this one here. And then finally, and coordinate y should be smaller or equal to the bottom. So now we have all of this. If that is the case, what I want to do here then is the following. I'm going to say here our canvas.style.cursor will be equal to pointer. So basically now we're just going to use JavaScript with a style indicating that this will be CSS command. So basically CSS cursor, and our cursor will be a pointer. Else, what I'm going to do here, if this is not the case, I'm going to put that back here and say default So if I save this now, refresh, and then here, there we are. As you can see here, we're really nicely within this rectangle box. So now we have this, and I'm going to remove the rectangle box now, because now this is a visual, or at least as clear as possible. Let's see here, all of this can be removed except for the text width. Don't remove the text width. I realize that this is the one we all have to remove. Everything here below. Alright, save that again just to double check. You can see now it works, but no more special colors on our boxes. So what we need to do here now, we need to loop through this. But this loop is slightly tricky. Because first of all, we have this here. This needs to be looped as well. So I'm going to grab this. This both need to be looped as well. Why? Because this part depends on whatever the data value is. If it would be like 100, it would be a far different situation. So I'm going to say here a for loop. For, and then here we're going to say let I equals 0. And then we're going to say I loop through that, and then we're going to do here length, but I'm going to do that later on. And then we say here I plus plus. Then we have that. Alright. So then what I want to do is I want to cut out all of this and put it in here, and then give this entire item an indentation. Save that, refresh, and now alright, of course it doesn't work yet because we didn't do anything here. So now what I want to do here is start working on the length. So what is this length? How do we get that? Well, remember here we have this data here. The data, and then more specifically, not even the data index here, but just only the data, will give us all the entire data array. So dot length. By doing this, we have now this looped, but we're not done here. I'm going to get this I, and this I will be put in here. I'm going to say here data I need to put in here as well, and everything else will maintain same except for this Y here. This should be an I, and then here I guess this one as well. Once I did this, we're almost done here, but if I save this now, refresh, you can see here it won't work here, and maybe it will work here. There you are. So what is happening here? It loops through this, all of them. But what I really want to do here, not only to loop through this, I want to check, and what I mean by that is, I want to check if the item where we hover on should be triggered, and not all of them, because what happens is they're being triggered all at the same time. So what I need to do here is the following. I'm just going to put in here a break command. So break, where I say if, as you can see here, if my mouse coordinates are matching with this, do not even continue on with the loop, break it, because this is the one we need. So if I save this, refresh, now there we are. As you can see here, you hover over it, this one is, and this one, everything works nicely. Alright, so this is number one. So then what I want to do is, of course, the clickable item. So we have to do another one, and it's luckily very similar. So I'm going to put a semicolon here. What I want to do is, before I even do that, I need to go up here, and I'm going to add up here just a quick array. So in Chart.js, because Chart.js is JavaScript, it's JavaScript code, we are allowed to put in here our own custom object values or namespaces. So what I'm going to say here, I'll just say here data labels, label link or something like that, doesn't matter. And then this should not be equal, you need your column. And then here, HTTP, and I'm just going to put in just 2 different websites. This is my own website, chartjs3.com, comma, and then we have another one which would be http //www, and then we say chartjs.org. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this a few more times. 1, 2, and there we are, and maybe it's the last one because we have 7 items, so it should be like that. Of course, you can do anything else here. My goal here is, let's see, we have this here, no comma here. Let's make sure there's a comma. There we are. My goal here is eventually just to show you as a demo, and you can do your own values in here. So, now we have this. What I'm going to do here, first of all, is let's create the second function. Second function is not anymore mouse move, but it's click. And here click, everything same, except here, this is not anymore the hover, let's say here, I guess maybe I'll just call it the click handler. That's the function. So then what I'm going to say here is function click handler, almost same, except here again, here we say chart, comma, and then we say here click. So in my mind I was already thinking it was click, this is why I had click in here at the time, so sorry about that. I'm going to delete all of this, but what we need here, most of it is same. So I'm going to just copy this part here. First of all, we need to make sure we know our click position. So we're going to put that in there. Then what I want to do here is console log, and of course here this should be click now because it's similar to this here as well. And if I do here this, we should now have core X, should be same. If I save this, click. If I refresh, open up developer tab, click, click, click. As you can see here, now it will not hover over, but now this clicks. Keep on clicking. Now there we are. So now we basically have the same methodology, and I think almost everything else could be duplicated here. Let's copy this. So we have all of this here. This validation is alright. Put that in there. Same item here, everything else, but of course this here is not anymore the case. What we can do here else, don't do anything else. Just like that. Alright, so we have this one here, and then we don't need to do break as well. Do we have anything else here that would be? So, and this here, of course, this doesn't work. So what I want to do here now, everything is fine here, but we will test that. I'm going to do here console log. And what I'm going to do here now is exactly the same as the data that we had before here. But remember, we created our own object here. And what we can do as well, maybe that's even better, console log. I want to loop, or at least show us the I value, because we are looping through this here. So it will show us this. And then here maybe we're going to say here the data label link, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go up here. It's link, alright. So that's the one here. And if I would just say here we should be able to extract already the specific item. Save this, refresh. Now there we are, and if I click on it, there you are. You can see your index 0, and then we have here the website. Click on this, chartjs.org, and of course here this one was again here it was rotating each other. So everything is fine here. So now what I want to do here is just to show the website as well. So we can say here a window dot open. And then what we want to open is, of course, the specific link. Put that in there. And then I'm going to say here, I guess we can save this, refresh. And now if I click, there we are. Start to load. And did it work? Yes, you can see here, this is the website. Beautiful. So if I click on this one here, chartjs.org shows. Beautiful. But if I click on the Y or everywhere outside of it, it doesn't work. Beautiful. And that's basically it. So if I click on this again here, we'll open up chartjs.org, and then here again, we'll open up again, and this one here, chartjs.org. So this is basically the way you can do it, and you can see here the console log shows it as well. So if you enjoyed this, and maybe you want to have maybe the labels also clickable, well, of course, I have another video for that, which is this one here, how to create clickable xScale labels, or xScale with links. So those, to make those a link. And of course, I also have another video regarding to the Y scale that you can search on YouTube as well. So those two are other items that you might want to consider.